Welcome back to YouTube channel, where today we dive into one of the most captivating coin stories in the world of numismatics, a story that starts with a simple 2001 New York quarter and ends in the realm of hundreds of millions of dollars. You heard that right, this isn't just a pocket change story, this is the tale of a 2001 New York 1788 quarter dollar that defied every expectation and now sits at a jaw-dropping value of $832 million. And yet, the road to that incredible valuation is not what you'd expect. It's not just about a mint error, not just about rarity, and not even just about historical resonance, it's about a sequence of events, a twist of fate, and a mystery so enthralling that collectors, historians, and economists still debate how this one quarter turned into one of the most expensive coins in recorded history. It began not in 2001, but much earlier, when the idea for the 50-state quarters program was first pitched. Few people realized how impactful that initiative would be. Coins that once merely passed from hand to hand started becoming objects of national pride and local identity. When the New York State Quarter was issued in 2001, it carried the date 1788 to commemorate the year New York ratified the Constitution. It featured a design with the Statue of Liberty and the state's outline, connected by a line tracing the Erie Canal and the Hudson River. A beautiful design, certainly, but nothing that at first glance seemed destined to make history. Millions of these quarters were minted. So how did one of them end up valued at $832 million? To understand that, we need to talk about the man who first discovered it. His name was Curtis Malloy, a retired electrical engineer who lived in the outskirts of Albany. Curtis wasn't a professional coin collector. In fact, his interest in coins had only begun after retirement, as a way to keep his mind sharp. He often visited garage sales and flea markets, and it was at one such place, a rundown estate sale on the edge of the Catskills, that Curtis stumbled upon a jar of coins being sold for a flat $5. Something about the jar intrigued him. Maybe it was the patina on the glass, maybe it was the old, curling label that simply read odds and ends. Regardless, Curtis brought the jar home, dumped the coins on his kitchen table, and began sifting through them. Among the mix of nickels, pennies, and battered dimes, a particular quarter caught his attention. It had the New York State design, but the color was off. It had a luster unlike the others, a silvery sheen that glowed faintly, even in low light. And the edges, while perfectly round, seemed sharper somehow, crisper. When Curtis held it under a magnifying glass, he noticed a series of minuscule markings along the inner rim. These markings were not part of the original mint design. At first, he suspected it might be some novelty reproduction. But the weight, the texture, the density, everything about the coin was correct. Everything, except those strange markings. Curtis, curious and methodical by nature, took the coin to a local coin dealer. The dealer examined it carefully, then frowned. He pulled out a microscope, then a digital scale. The coin was, by every measurable account, a genuine U.S. quarter minted in 2001. But it had features no other quarter should have. The material tested as an ultra-pure form of silver, not clad, not plated, but solid silver, far purer than any coin intended for circulation. The dealer, clearly spooked, offered to buy the coin on the spot for $500. That was Curtis's first hint that he might have something extraordinary, but Curtis wasn't interested in a quick sale. Instead, he took the coin to a numismatics expert at a regional university. There, under advanced equipment, the coin's secrets began to unravel. The tiny inscriptions around the edge were in a cipher, one that matched encryption methods used in Cold War intelligence operations. That's when things began to get strange. Government representatives contacted Curtis, asking if they could examine the coin. Some even suggested it might be classified material. But Curtis had already had it authenticated by 3 independent labs. The coin was legal tender, genuine U.S. mint issue, but with materials and markings that made no sense for a coin from 2001. Theories exploded online. Some believed it was a secret test strike, minted using experimental materials. Others believed it was an intelligence dead drop, disguised as legal tender to pass unnoticed. One particularly elaborate theory suggested it was part of a failed time travel experiment conducted in the late 1990s. While that last idea might stretch belief, it illustrates how mystifying the coin had become. And the mystery only deepened when, during further analysis, a tiny microchip was found embedded within the coin's core. Yes, a microchip. Barely larger than a grain of sand, sealed inside the coin using what appeared to be nanotechnology well beyond the capabilities of any known minting process. It had no power source, no moving parts, and yet it emitted a passive signal detectable only at certain frequencies. Data extracted from the chip was fragmented and encrypted in ways modern cryptographers still cannot fully decode. What could possibly be on that chip? A blueprint? A key? A fragment of something much larger. This was when interest reached the international stage. Auctions were proposed, but legal challenges halted them. Governments wanted the coin studied further. Conspiracy theorists suggested it was alien in origin. Meanwhile, the price of the coin skyrocketed. Insurance companies appraised it at over $200 million. Offers from private collectors came in at $400 million. Museums and tech companies pushed bids to $600 million. By the time an anonymous buyer secured it in a tightly negotiated private sale, the coin was valued at $832 million, the most ever paid for a single coin in history, and yet, to this day, no one knows the full story behind that coin. What was the purpose of the microchip? Why was it minted in silver when no such versions were supposed to exist? What were the inscriptions for, and who encoded them? All attempts to trace its origin through the U.S. Mint came up short. There were no records, no prototype documentation, nothing in the archives. It was as if the coin had appeared out of nowhere, flawlessly forged by a method unknown, inserted into circulation by hands unseen. Years later, Curtis Malloy's story would be the subject of multiple documentaries. But he never tried to explain what he believed the coin was. He once said in an interview, "I think some things are supposed to be found by the right person at the right time. Not to be explained, just to be recognized." After the sale, he donated half the money to educational programs in New York and used the rest to travel the world. He passed away in 2023, leaving behind only one message regarding the coin: it's not what it's made of. It's what it knows. Today, replicas of the coin circulate among collectors, but none come close to the original. Several fakes have been seized, including one that used counterfeit nano components. The original remains in a private collection, its whereabouts unknown. Occasionally, rumors surface: sightings in Dubai, whispers of a private European vault, even a brief suggestion that it was on display at an exclusive tech summit in Kyoto. But no confirmation ever follows. The coin, like its mystery, remains elusive. In the world of numismatics, stories often end with mintage numbers, strike errors, or mint marks. But this story refuses to end. The 2001 New York 1788 quarter dollar worth $832 million is not just a coin. It is a symbol, a puzzle, and perhaps even a message. It reminds us that even the smallest objects can contain universes of wonder. So next time you're handed a quarter in change, take a second look. You never know what secrets might be hiding in plain sight. And that wraps up today's incredible journey into the heart of one of history's most enigmatic coins. Make sure you stay tuned for more unbelievable stories about rare currency, mysterious discoveries, and the hidden history of the world you thought you knew. Last, where today we unfold a story few people know but everyone should. It's the story of a quarter that became more than just a coin. It became a symbol, a treasure, and ultimately, a legend. This is the astonishing journey of the 2000 Virginia 1788 quarter dollar, a coin you could have once held in your hand, now worth a staggering $322 million. And as incredible as that number sounds, the story that led it there is even more extraordinary. It's a tale of misfortune, of hidden messages, of one man's obsession, and of how history sometimes hides itself in plain sight, disguised as everyday currency. Our story begins far away from auctions, collectors, and museums. It begins on a foggy morning in Yorktown, Virginia. The year was 2001, and a retired librarian named Henry Crowley was doing what he did every Saturday, browsing the local farmers market, sipping a lukewarm coffee, and buying local newspapers. Henry wasn't the kind of man anyone would peg as a future millionaire, much less the owner of one of the most valuable coins in the world. But that Saturday, everything changed. After handing over a $5 bill for his groceries, Henry received a handful of coins in return. He pocketed them without a second thought. It wasn't until later that afternoon, when he emptied his change onto the kitchen table, that one coin stood out. The Virginia State Quarter from the year 2000. It gleamed in a way that was hard to describe. Not shiny, but radiant. Henry, being an amateur history buff and longtime numismatics enthusiast, looked closer. The design was familiar: 3 ships sailing westward, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, representing the 1607 Jamestown settlement. But something about the ships looked different. The lines were crisper. The sails had markings, symbols he didn't recall from other Virginia quarters. One sail bore a faint, intricate spiral, like a galaxy etched in metal. Another ship had a tiny, almost invisible set of initials carved into its stern, JKF. Curiosity piqued, Henry compared the quarter to others he had collected. The differences weren't just in design but in composition. It was heavier, denser. He placed it on a digital scale. It registered several grams over the standard weight of a U.S. quarter. He brought out a magnifying glass. The year, 2000, was slightly misaligned with the rest of the text. Almost like it had been struck twice, but not in a way that resembled a mint error. It looked intentional. Unsure what to make of it, Henry visited a local coin shop the next morning. The owner, a brusque former Marine named Walter Nash, took one look at the coin and fell into stunned silence. Walter disappeared into the back room and returned with a copy of a confidential collector's guide. He flipped through the pages until he found what he was looking for. Then he stared at Henry like he was seeing a ghost. According to the guide, there had been rumors of an ultra-rare Virginia State Quarter, minted in secret, supposedly as a collaboration between the U.S. Mint and a private Virginia heritage group. It was never meant for circulation, only for ceremonial presentation, and just 3 were said to exist. They were struck using a unique dye blend of platinum and palladium, extremely rare and never publicly acknowledged. And yet, here it was, in Henry's hand. A coin thought to be mythical, now very much real. Word spread fast. Experts were called in. Metallurgical tests confirmed the coin was composed of 92% platinum and 8% palladium, an alloy with no known record of use in U.S. coinage. Beyond its unique composition, the coin exhibited characteristics unlike any others: a holographic watermark only visible under UV light, microscopic etchings in Latin along the rim, and a subtle engraving on the reverse side that read in minuscule print, Sic Parvis Magna, a Latin phrase meaning greatness from small beginnings. This phrase ignited a frenzy in the academic world. Historians began drawing connections between the coin and secret societies dating back to the Jamestown settlers. One theory posited that the coin was created as a symbol for an elite group of historians and archivists who believed certain truths about early American history had been hidden or erased. Another theory suggested the coin was a marker, a kind of key to unlocking a hidden vault in Williamsburg, rumored to contain maps, documents, and artifacts never revealed to the public. As interest intensified, the coin was placed under armed protection. Offers poured in from collectors, museums, and even governments. Henry, overwhelmed but deeply fascinated, refused all offers. Instead, he wanted to know why the coin had ended up in circulation. Who had spent it, and why? Using surveillance footage from the farmers' market, local law enforcement traced the coin back to a church-run thrift shop. There, a dusty collection jar had been emptied days earlier by a volunteer. That jar, they learned, had been donated by the estate of Dr. Emery Wells, a little-known historian and cryptologist who had died 2 months earlier under suspicious circumstances. Dr. Wells, it turned out, had been obsessed with the early colonial period, particularly Jamestown. His journals, recovered from his home, revealed a staggering depth of research. He believed the original Jamestown settlers had discovered some knowledge or artifact so powerful that they had encrypted its existence into artwork, documents, and, apparently, coins. In one journal entry, he wrote, "They will bury it under centuries, mask it with pride and patriotism. But it's still there. Still waiting." Forensic examination of the coin revealed even more secrets. When subjected to low-frequency magnetic resonance imaging, a hidden cavity was discovered within the coin, barely large enough to hold a grain of rice. Inside was a microscroll of some sort, made of a highly durable polymer. Decoding its text required weeks of decryption. When finally deciphered, it revealed coordinates pointing to a dense patch of forest in the Appalachian Mountains. A team was dispatched, funded privately by an anonymous foundation. What they discovered beneath the soil was unprecedented: a sealed lead box containing 17th-century English documents, several unidentified artifacts, and a leather-bound book written in code. Among the papers was a letter addressed to those who will uncover truth when the world is ready. The letter described an agreement among early Virginia leaders to protect a discovery deemed too dangerous and world-altering for their time. The public never saw these artifacts. The entire site was closed off within days, citing preservation concerns. But insiders leaked fragments of what was found: maps showing alternative colonial routes, correspondences referencing pre-Columbian contact with civilizations long believed to be isolated, and a page from the book suggesting that Jamestown settlers had encountered a metallic visitor in the wilderness. Back in the coin collecting world, the value of Henry's coin skyrocketed. Appraised at over $100 million by early 2003, the coin was placed on long-term loan to the Smithsonian under heavily negotiated terms. However, in 2006, the coin vanished. A mysterious fire at the museum storage facility consumed records, files, and allegedly, the vault containing the coin. No remains of it were found. Henry, by then living in a secure location, never spoke publicly again. He passed away in 2012, leaving behind only a single note: the coin served its purpose. Years later, in 2018, a Virginia collector named Lila Dennison received a package from an unknown sender. Inside was a second Virginia state quarter matching the exact characteristics of the lost coin. Accompanying it was a note that read, "Guard it well. One remains." The existence of this second coin reignited global interest. It was quickly insured for $322 million after verification. However, Lila never sold it. She believed the coin had a purpose beyond wealth. She once said in an interview, "This coin is a question. And once you see the question, you can't unsee it." To this day, the coin's origin remains officially unrecognized by the U.S. Mint. No records of its creation exist. Yet multiple authenticated examples have surfaced. Some say there are 3. Others whisper of 5. What remains certain is that the 2000 Virginia 1788 quarter dollar is no longer just a piece of metal. It is a legend, a mystery, a whisper of forgotten history frozen in platinum and palladium, and every time you hold a state quarter, you have to wonder what else is out there, hiding in plain sight.